Have you ever looked at the market at the end of the day and just thought, what in the world just happened? Well, today it was one of those days on Wall Street. We had headlines that seemed to completely cancel each other out, leaving a lot of people just scratching their heads. So we're going to untangle this thing. Okay, let's just dive right in. Here's the whole puzzle on one slide. You've got the tech-heavy Nasdaq not just up, but surging to a brand new all-time record high. But then you look at the broader market, the S&P 500 and the Dow, and they both actually finished the day down, in the red.
So how is that even possible, right? How can the market be a huge winner and a loser at the exact same time? It turns out, believe it or not, the answer isn't that complicated. One single story literally split the market in two, and we're going to get into it right now.
And that one story, it's all about those tiny little semiconductor chips. You know, the brains that power literally everything in our world, from your phone to your car. The entire market's completely bizarre behavior today? Yep, you can trace it all back to a single really powerful announcement that came out of the White House.
And here it is, the bombshell. The president announced a plan to smack imported semiconductor chips with a staggering 100% tariff. Now, a move like that isn't just a small policy change, it's a potential earthquake for the entire tech industry. You're talking about doubling the cost of these absolutely critical parts, basically overnight.
But, and this is the huge but, this wasn't some kind of blanket tax on everyone. The policy came with this massive built-in off-ramp, an escape hatch, if you will. The tariffs would be completely waived for any company that committed to building its chips right here in the United States.
And you don't have to take my word for it. Here are the president's own words, making it crystal clear. That one simple sentence drew a really sharp line in the sand. On one side, you had companies staring down huge new costs, and on the other, companies that suddenly saw a massive competitive advantage. It set the stage for a day of very clear winners and very clear losers.
Now, to see how this all played out in real time, we just have to look at the day's biggest winner, Apple. They didn't just react to the news, oh no. It was like they had the perfect countermove ready to go, almost as if they had the playbook before the game even started.
So get this. At the very same press conference where this tariff was announced, who's standing right there? Apple CEO Tim Cook. And he takes the podium to announce an additional $100 billion investment in U.S. manufacturing. The market? Oh, it absolutely ate it up. Apple stock shot up over 3%. And that was a huge reason the whole Nasdaq index was lifted into record territory.
And this right here tells you everything you need to know about how Wall Street saw this whole thing. Analysts didn't just see a smart business decision, they saw a brilliant political play. You started seeing phrases like strategic poker move and masterclass pop up in all the reports. It was a signal that Apple had just turned a massive political risk into a major win.
But here's where the story takes a really weird turn. You would think that all the US chip companies would be soaring on this news, right? I mean, it's designed to help them, and most of them were. Stocks like Nvidia, AMD, they all had a great day. But one of the biggest US chip makers of them all, Intel, it did the exact opposite. It fell, and it fell hard.
And this was the real head-scratcher of the day. As a major US-based manufacturer, Intel looked like it was perfectly positioned to cash in on this Made in America policy. So why on earth did its stock tumble more than 3% while all its rivals were climbing?
Well, the answer wasn't hiding in some complicated financial document or a boring earnings call. No, in a bizarre twist that sounds like it's straight out of a movie, the reason for this multi-billion-dollar company's stock drop was found in a single post on a social media site.
That's right. The President of the United States went on Truth Social and directly called for the immediate resignation of Intel CEO Lip-Bu Tan. He pointed to concerns which were first brought up by Senator Tom Cotton about the CEO's reported business connections to China. And just like that, Intel's problem wasn't about tariffs or factories anymore. It was deeply and very publicly personal.
Okay, so while this massive, high-stakes political drama was playing out with the chip makers, it's really important to remember it wasn't the only game in town. The market is never just one story. There were dozens of other companies having huge days, both good and bad, for reasons that had absolutely nothing to do with tariffs.
I mean, just take a look at this list. Duolingo, the language app, soared 14%, Why? Because a ton of new users signed up. Awesome. DoorDash jumped 5% because people are ordering more food, and you had medtech companies like Insulet and Becton Dickinson surging because their sales and profits were great. This is the classic bread and butter stuff of Wall Street, right? Good business fundamentals driving prices.
And on the flip side, this slide really shows you there's more than one way for a stock to have a really bad day. You take a pharma giant like Eli Lilly. It plunged 14%. Why? Not because of politics, but because of science. A big drug trial had disappointing results. Meanwhile, you've got Crocs plummeting 28% because investors were spooked by tariff talk and worried about the company's reliance on imports. Two huge drops for two totally different reasons.
So, let's bring it all home. Let's try to make sense of this whole messy day. We've seen a market literally split in two by one policy. We saw Apple's perfectly timed political play and Intel's very personal, very public takedown. And then a bunch of other companies just doing their thing. So what's the big picture here? What does all of this tell us?
Well, if there's one single lesson to take away from a day like today, it's this. The line between a company's business strategy and its political strategy, well, it's basically disappearing. For a lot of these companies now, navigating the hallways of Washington is becoming just as critical as navigating the floors of Wall Street.
And that really leaves us with a final provocative question for the future of business. In this new world, is it enough anymore to just have the best product or the best financials, or has a savvy political game plan now become an absolutely essential part of a CEO's job description? That's something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.